Welcome back, my YouTube channel subscribers, to Big Bill Anderson's Death Tours. I am here, Phoenix, Arizona. Today I am standing here at the house right behind me, 3922 Tierra Buena Lane. And my friends, you'd never know what happened at this house by looking at it. It's so beautiful, but you'd never know the horrors that happened behind me that made national headlines 20 years ago. On the night of January 16th, 1997, police were called to this house. Neighbors reported some unusual, violent behavior in the backyard of this house that's behind me, near the swimming pool. When the police arrived, they found a woman floating in the swimming pool of this house. She had 44 stab wounds, and she was drowned in the swimming pool. I'm going to tell you more about this story, and the reason I'm even doing it, there's a meaning behind it, and I just want to let people know about this story, about this house here in Phoenix. And I know this is going to be a bit graphic and violent. The topic is extremely violent, and it's all too real. Sometimes on my channel I do lighthearted videos or roadside attractions. This is very real, and it happened in my town here of Phoenix, Arizona. I want to tell you more about it, my friends. Stay with me.
On January 16th, 1997, Scott Falater, the owner of this home, went to bed in this house and said the next thing he remembers is police swarming his home and arresting him for killing his wife of 20 years. Police reported that Yarmila Falater was stabbed 44 times and then drowned in the family pool. Neighbors stated that they had heard screams and dogs barking as they called 911. The husband just threw the wife into the pool. It looked like he's holding her underwater. The dispatcher asked if they were fighting, and the neighbor reports, "I don't know what the problem is. I don't know. It's weird, and I'm concerned." Police responded and found Yarmila Falater floating in the pool. Scott and their 2 children were still asleep in the home. Police reported that there was evidence to show that Scott Falater hid his clothes and the murder weapon and washed the blood off of himself. Witnesses told police that they saw Falater exit the home with gloves on his hand. They also saw him drag his wife to the pool and hold her underwater. The Falaters had met in high school and married in college, both continuing their education and getting master's degrees. Scott went on to become an engineer, and Yarmila became an assistant teacher. Scott described their marriage as happy, mutually faithful, and loving, with no history of money problems or abuse. He said they were beginning to make retirement plans, and they were both very active in their church. He worked as a personal and family counselor and a teacher in their church. Police said they had never been called to the home before, and friends also reported that they had a good marriage. Court paperwork in the case said the question of motive remains unanswered. Though Falater never denied killing his wife, he has consistently said he didn't remember doing any of it, saying he had suffered from the sleep disorder somnambulism all his life. In his defense team claimed he was in a sleep-like state when the murder occurred. A sleepwalking defense was not a new defense. In 1982, another Phoenix man was successfully defended by his attorney, who made the claim he was sleepwalking when he stabbed his wife 26 times, killing her. Multiple sleep experts testified at trial, saying that people who sleepwalk usually engage in routine activities. The more complex the activity, the less likely they are really sleepwalking. However, other experts said it's rare but possible for someone to commit an act of violence while sleepwalking. Flater himself testified for nearly 2 hours. But in the end, the jury was not convinced that he was asleep during the entire attack. One juror commented after the trial, "I think he could have been sleepwalking when he stabbed his wife. The possibility exists, but we don't know. There is no witness, but when he dragged the body, I think he woke up. He could have been sleepwalking, woke up and said, 'Oh no, look what I've done.' And I think he panicked." Flater testified that he did not remember any of it, and two expert sleep analysis people cited that Flater's family history of sleepwalking was very well documented. He had job stress and lack of sleep as reasons for his violent sleepwalking episode. The defense painted Flater, a former Motorola Incorporated engineer, and his wife of 20 years as happily married and a religious couple. Defense attorneys said Flater had no reason at all to kill his wife. Family members testified that Scott had a history of sleepwalking. Once, when he was 12 years old, at midnight, Scott, with glassy eyes, walked into the living room of his house naked and announced to his parents that he was leaving for school. His father walked him back to bed. Scott's sister Laura had once tried to wake him up during a sleepwalking episode when he was a teenager, she said, and he reacted by flinging her across the room. Prosecutors argued that Scott was able to recognize his dog and calm him down during the so-called sleeping episode, and far too complex to have been done entirely while sleepwalking. Flater was convicted in June of 1999. When it came to deciding life or death for Flater, the judge received many letters asking for leniency, but he said it was the testimony of his two children that weighed the most in his decision. Both of them pleaded for their father to be kept alive, saying they wished they could be with him again. The victim's mother also asked that Flater be kept alive. The judge sympathized with the family and sentenced Flater to life in prison with no parole. According to his Arizona Department of Corrections report, Flater has been a good prisoner, working as a tutor and library clerk, among other jobs in the prison. In 2005, this case was shown on the Forensic Files television show. Now, personally, I honestly didn't think much more about this case until a recent event happened at my workplace. My coworker named Javier showed up at work one day and on his day off and asked several coworkers why all the clocks at work said 9 a.m. He normally works from 2 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Everyone said because it is 9 a.m. Javier said no, it's 2 a.m. Javier then went into the manager's office and started arguing with him about what time it was. As it turned out, Javier was sleepwalking. He actually drove 5 miles to work and back home with no memory of it the next day. My thoughts went to how complex it is to leave your house and drive through traffic without killing yourself or anyone else, then interact with people at work. Javier says he has a history of sleepwalking, but not to this extreme, as far as he knows. Upon hearing this story, after I came to work that day, it made me rethink the Scott Flater sleepwalking homicide case. This is such an interesting case, but no matter how you look at it, whether he killed his wife while sleepwalking, as he still claims 20 years later, or it was deliberate murder, it is horrendous. It left 2 children without a father who will never re-enter society, and a mother who was viciously murdered at the age of 41. Another point is that if Flater had such violent tendencies in his sleep state, how could he ever be trusted around people in society again? My friends, follow me as we now will go to Yarmila Flater's final resting place.
All right, my friends, Big Bill Anderson here. I am at Paradise Memorial Gardens Cemetery in Scottsdale, finishing off this video about the brutal murder of Yarmila Falater and her husband Scott. Killed her at their home that I've showed you earlier in this video. So now I wanted to pay my respects to this lady and show you her grave. She was only 41 years old. It's very sad. And this is Big Bill Anderson saying, please like, subscribe to my channel, my friends. Thank you very much for tuning in, watching this video. Adios, amigos.